Good morning. My name is Thomas Reutman. I'm a hearing officer for San Francisco Public Works. Cerise Waiters is the clerk of this hearing. This hearing is being recorded via Zoom and will be available afterward through a link on the San Francisco Public Works website, sfpublicworks.org. As this is a virtual hearing, there's no sign-in sheet, so if you'd like to receive information about the results of this hearing, please send an email to the email address listed on the hearing notice. If you do not have that with you, please contact the Bureau of Urban Forestry at urbanforestry@sfdpw.org. This public hearing is being held to consider two items. First, public comment, so members of the public may address the hearing officer on matters that are within the department's jurisdiction, but not on today's agenda. And second will be hearing order number 210330 to consider appeals from property owners for the planting of a new street tree or trees adjacent to their property at the addresses listed below. The department may plant new climate appropriate trees in the sidewalk or public right-of-way. When the department determines to plant a new street tree, the department will undertake maintenance responsibility for such new street tree, including routine care and actions necessary to promote the life, growth, health, or beauty of a tree. The following locations are the subject of this hearing. First, 125 Cole Street, then 24 Rolfe Street, and then 400 Somerset Street. My job as the hearing officer is to gather the facts for the hearing item, listen to your testimonies, and help our Director of Public Works make determinations. I will not be making any decisions today. Instead, I will forward the findings from this hearing and make my recommendations to the Director. The Director will make the final determinations. When the Director's determinations are made, the department will notify you of them if you've provided us your contact information. The hearing will proceed as follows for today's case. I'll ask Public Works staff to speak first and present the case. Then I'll allow a property owner, applicant, or appellant to speak. Then any member of the public or witness who wants to speak. And then the department, if the department would also like to address any comments. And lastly, the property owner, applicant, or appellant again, if the person has any rebuttals. Each speaker will have up to 3 minutes to speak. The clerk will monitor the time for all speakers and will indicate when the speaker has 30 seconds left. If you are a party to this proceeding, I will call on you to speak. If you'd like to use visual materials in your presentation, please let me know before you speak. You will then have the standard 3 minutes to provide your comments. If you're a member of the public or witness who wants to speak, wait for me to call for public comments, then use Zoom's raise your hand feature and put yourself in the queue to speak. If you've dialed in by phone, raise your hand by pressing *9, and when told you are being unmuted, press *6 to unmute yourself before speaking. When it is your turn to speak, I will recognize you. Again, if you'd like to use visual materials in your presentation, please let me know before you speak. You will then have the standard 3 minutes to provide your comments. Comments and questions should be addressed to me and not to the department or the applicant. If you cannot finish your comments within the allotted time, you may submit written testimony to me by the end of this hearing. If I feel that a question is warranted, I will ask the question. After all comments are completed, I will close the item. We will now begin the hearing. So starting with public comment, are there any public works matters that are not on today's agenda?
I don't see any hands at this time.
Okay, thank you. With that, we'll move to order number 210330. May I have Public Works make its presentation, please?
Thank you. Good morning. And just confirming, Cerise, you can hear my audio. Great. So I just wanted to welcome the public and appellants here this morning. My name is Chris Buck. I'm the urban forester with San Francisco Public Works within the Bureau of Urban Forestry, and I oversee our inspection team. It ranges from 5 to 7 inspectors for the entire city. And what we'll do this morning is I'll introduce some larger big picture information about public works, our urban forestry ordinance, and specific guidelines related to tree planting. And then I'll present on the specific sites and the site conditions that we have there. And then just as a reminder for folks that call into other public meetings that we have, this is a single agenda item. So I'll be going through all 3 sites first. And then, so there won't be individual public comment after each individual case. It would be collective after I present, and then property owners or the representatives speak, and then it would be public comment. So with that, I just wanted to say hello before I disappear behind the PowerPoint. So I'm going to share my screen and go to the slideshow from the beginning. So let's do this. Share screen. Moment. Let's bring this to from the beginning. Great. All right. Thanks again for everyone's patience as we work through some of the groundwork here. So just to restate again, this is Public Works Hearing Order 210330. This is a tree planting hearing. We typically have tree removal hearings once a month. We also have once a month administrative hearing for when we've issued fines due to either illegal removals or excessive pruning, like topping trees or failure to protect trees during construction. So we're going to review proposed tree planting locations in San Francisco. And big picture, San Francisco Public Works has jurisdiction over the public right-of-way and all the street trees within the public right-of-way. The goal of Public Works is to ensure safe, clean, and green infrastructure and public rights-of-way. The Bureau's mission within Public Works is to preserve and grow the urban forest while balancing the safety and needs of a growing and evolving city. We do have a tree ordinance, which we'll get into the details about further in the presentation, but the tree ordinance establishes authorization and standards for addressing a wide range of issues regarding trees. And our San Francisco Urban Forestry Ordinance is Article 16 of the Public Works Code. So prior to the ballot in November 2016, which became effective on July 1st, 2017, known as Prop E, prior to that, San Francisco Public Works only maintained approximately 1/3 of the street trees in San Francisco. And you can look at car chase scenes from the 50s and 60s and see mostly treeless avenues and streets in some of those classic movie scenes. So it's a bit of an urban forest tour of what we really didn't have. So we've come a long way because with the passage of Prop E and it becoming effective in 2017, is that the city now maintains all of the street trees in San Francisco. There is an urban forest plan. So the city and most cities have first they have a general plan, the city's general plan, and then within that, departments and agencies have additional plans. So at Public Works, through a process over 10 years ago with the San Francisco Planning Department and the Urban Forestry Council and tree advocates and other stakeholders, our urban forest plan was created and adopted by the city. And that urban forest plan recommended a few things. The first thing it recommended is that San Francisco complete its street tree census. We knew we only had an incomplete census as of the passage of the urban forest plan. So what we've done is we actually completed the street tree census. We learned that we have approximately 125,000 street trees, which is very low compared to other major cities. And we are looking at maintaining the existing street trees, but also planting out the remaining available planting sites in San Francisco. So just looking at what this means is that Street Tree SF is what we refer to as the passage of Prop E. And so since 2017, we are now looking to wrap up our first complete maintenance cycle. We are a couple of years off due to impacts from the pandemic. Our goal was to complete the first round of maintenance within 3 to 5 years. We are working hard to see if we can close it out in 7 years. So we also have a website that is sfpublicworks.org, and then trees, which can also be found under resources. And we have a lot of information about Public Works and our street tree maintenance program. On this website, you can see what we call like a heat map that shows which areas of the city have the greatest number of trees. And some of these neighborhoods that have the most amount of trees are also the more residential and older neighborhoods that became residential earlier than other neighborhoods. But as you can see, there's not a lot of equity in the distribution of trees across the city, particularly in the southeast area of the city and the western part. So within our mapping system, we break a lot of streets into organizational grids or key maps, as we refer to them. And then a property owner can actually pull up their own address to see when the street tree or trees on their block are scheduled for maintenance. So this is just an example of that. Also within Public Works, we have a director's order. It regulates the planting, maintenance, or removal of trees and landscape material on public sidewalks. And just as a note, technically, the public right-of-way is sort of the commons. It's not city property, but we do have, city agencies do have jurisdiction over the public right-of-way. So it's almost like a commons that city agencies maintain on behalf of the public. So private property, as we all know, is contained within the parcel map of individual parcels of property. The sidewalk we often refer to as the public right-of-way, which is, again, belongs to everyone. Our department and our bureau handles all tree-related permits, from ADU or accessory dwelling unit tree planting triggers to new driveway tree planting triggers. Also projects like the Salesforce Tower, the review of all large-scale infrastructure projects citywide. Just some examples would be the San Francisco Giants, Mission Rock neighborhood, Pier 70, the Hunters U, Ventura Hope, Sunnydale housing initiatives, the Apple Store at Union Square, just to mention a high-profile one, and also streetscape projects citywide. So I just want to assure the members of the public and the property owners that we're the same group. We're part of the same team that reviews everything from this whole gamut of potential projects. And we're also very pleased with being able to serve you on a very residential capacity. Within the director's order, just to point out some of the obvious, is that the planting of street trees and landscaping in the public right-of-way enhances the physical, ecological, and cultural aspects of the city. Because street trees are the most important organizing element of the streetscape environment, appropriate tree species selection, location, and design of the planting site is essential. Proper tree selection and planting will ensure the healthy growth and longevity of trees, enhance streetscape character, maximize environmental benefits, and maximize the city's investment. what we're saying here is that street trees are critical infrastructure. They're not just an aesthetic preference that some random person has within the city. These are the goals of the city, which have been established through citizen engagement and advocacy and city advocacy over decades. So also on our website, just to drive this point home, Public Works, Bureau of Urban Forestry, if a private property owner sought to plant a tree voluntarily, or if they had a construction project that required the planting of street trees, we actually have a tree planting application. And on that application, it outlines all of the clearances we seek to obtain from surrounding utilities. Now, this is really important because this is the same lens, the same series of minimum restrictions that are employed or reviewed when we and or our nonprofit partners initiate the planting adjacent to your property. And so all of those projects I have mentioned before get reviewed in the same way by the same people. Key things, the most common clearances that we want to maintain, clearances between trees and utilities would be gas, water, and sewer line, but also things like fire hydrants, stop signs, and streetlights. With that said, just circling back, and we'll get into the actual site-specific details in just a moment. So Article 16 does outline the planting. Section 806 outlines planting and removal of street trees. And under Section 806, planting and removal of street trees, it states planting and removal by the department. A1, planting. The department may determine to plant a new climate-appropriate tree or trees in a sidewalk or public right-of-way. When the department determines to plant a new street tree or trees, the department will undertake maintenance responsibility for such new street tree, and she'll send a courtesy notice to the abutting property owner prior to planting a new tree. Objections to the proposed work must be submitted to the director in writing and postmarked within 30 days after notice by the director. We also accept this via email. We want to be as accessible as possible. So it doesn't have to be specifically addressed to the director. And again, we're always happy to accept it via email. Even a phone call is enough for us to put this onto a hearing. The director shall consider such objections and may hold a hearing in the director's discretion. The director's decision on the matter shall be final and non-appealable. We have not had a tree planting appeal hearing in several years at the discretion of the director, but with the receipt of the IRA, Inflation Reduction Act grant of $13 million, we are looking to plant new trees citywide. And so we anticipate that we will probably be initiating the planting of new street trees and anticipate that, yes, there's going to be questions and feedback about that. Lastly, before we finally dig in, and I just want to thank everyone for their patience, I just want to point out a few policy things. We're constantly hearing about the importance of the environment, and the city has issued a number of climate emergencies and declarations. So again, I just want to point out that street tree planting is nothing new. It's been the goal of the city for decades and decades, and we're finally in a position now that we've secured maintenance and are maintaining all of the street trees in the public right-of-way, we can now begin focusing on planting more street trees. With that said, I do thank you for your patience. And now we'll just go through, in a much briefer manner, the actual specific sites at our 3 locations. And I'm going to just begin with the first one, alphabetical by street name, 125 Cole Street. We initiated the planting of the street tree. Oftentimes, we may wait to not plant the street tree if we're receiving feedback. Sometimes it's not possible. And we plant the tree while still reserving the the request of a property owner or representative to request that the matter be reviewed, considered, and again, at the director's discretion, to schedule the matter for a hearing. So this property owner and or the representative has requested that this be reviewed. The tree was actually planted on Arbor Day in early March by Public Works. And I do see that we need to return to add protective vertical stakes and a cross brace that'll have the Public Works logo on the tree. So to walk through the actual process of how we verify that we are meeting the minimum planting restrictions, here's an example of Google Street View showing the context of the site. Circled in green is the area where the tree was planted. This shows there are existing street trees, including one that was also somewhat recently planted behind the white car on the left by our nonprofit partner, Friends of the Urban Forest. So between these two driveways, there is space. And just looking uphill, there are a number of existing street trees already. That's looking towards the east. The view to the west, again, this is a neighborhood that is considered to be one of the more heavily treed or has one of the greatest volumes of trees in San Francisco. Even with that, though, you can see these recent plantings, again, ultimately under our jurisdiction. Our nonprofit partner, Friends of the Urban Forest, plants street trees under contract with Public Works. Regarding 125 Cole, we looked at the site, and this site here, several feet, not just several feet, but meeting the minimum clearance from the sewer line on the left. This shows our proposed location. The USA stands for Underground Service Alert. This is another view of the same location. So when we look at planting street trees, again, we're looking at making sure that we are not in conflict with utilities or other street furniture. In this case, we require 5 feet minimum clearance from sewer lines. We measure that from the center of utility to the center of the planting site. These sidewalk squares are approximately 3 feet by 3 feet. And so this is actually approximately 6 feet from the sewer line. That the sewer line trap is in the bottom foreground of this image with a vent that square. And then there's another sewer line on the far side of the planting site, which is also 2 full squares away from the planting site. So those are the 2 closest utilities that were under consideration for 125 Cole Street. Also, just to note that when we market for Underground Service Alert, the idea is that we get confirmation about any below ground utilities. And so here it says no PG&E. It also says no, so PG&E red means high voltage electricity. Yellow is gas, so they're also saying no gas. And then light blue would be a water line, and we don't see that either. So this was a site that was checked and no conflicts below ground. On Arbor Day, we planted the subject tree. This is a Catalina ironwood, and they are native to California, and they sometimes are hard to get as a tall, established standard. So we are going to be adding stakes so that we can train this tree upright. Here's one more image of, again, the Catalina ironwood tree. This is on a list of trees that we maintain. Our list of species citywide is reviewed annually, both by Public Works and a process that's required of the Urban Forestry Council. So it is on our approved species planting list, and we do review that list annually so that we can understand trends, but also start planting more climate adaptive species. Moving on to 24 Rolfe Street. This also was a planting that was initiated. This one was not planted by Public Works, but is being pursued by our nonprofit partner, Friends of the Urban Forest, under contract or with approval by the city. This is the overall site here, the yellow and brick house. We have a street light pole to the left of the driveway, and then just showing you some utilities. Oh, just in general, the site conditions. We have a lot of cars parked in the front yards or in the driveway locations. And this is a view west. This is the site that met our guidelines for tree planting, plenty of space to plant a tree here. We did not pursue planting to the left of the driveway because in addition to there being a utility pole, there's a street light on the pole. And we would need to be 9, 15, and or 21 feet away from a street light, depending on the size of the tree planted. In this case, we also have a water line and the sewage line. Let me, at the bottom of the image in yellow is a sewer lateral. So again, the best planting site here is to the right of the driveway. Oh, it's important to note that when we have above ground, overhead power lines, we plant trees that will be small stature at maturity so that we don't have conflicts with the overhead power lines. So that's something we're aware of, and we're not planting a large stature species here. It would be a small stature species at maturity. And the final site that's part of the hearing today is to consider the planting of a tree adjacent to 400 Somerset. Look, this is 400 Somerset. Looking at this frontage, we need to be 25 feet from the stop sign. So that arrow shows approximately 25 feet away, brings you all the way to the driveway, garage curb cut. There's also a sewer lateral. So we won't plant in this location, but slightly uphill to the west of that intersection, there is space that is free of utility conflicts. So either of these locations would be absolutely meet our planting spacing guidelines based on the required minimum distances as established in the director's order that regulates the planting and maintenance of street trees. Those are the images that we have for each one. I'll stop sharing for a moment and just come back to you as a human. The big picture here, the city has declared a number of climate emergencies over the years, and San Francisco for decades and decades is known internationally as being very forward thinking when it comes to the environment. Our tree planting has lagged behind other major cities incredibly. We need to plant more trees, particularly in the southeast area of the city where we have environmental justice issues. We have the highways, we have the sewage treatment plant, the power plants that were finally undergrounded. And the southeast area of the city has the fewest amount of street trees. So our emphasis is on planting trees where they're needed the most. That said, an example of Cole Street is that we do still have neighborhoods that are known as being tree lined that still have gaps in them. But we are focused big picture. The volume and numbers will be far greater planting in the southeast area of the city. That said, I do want to conclude the staff presentation, but overall, to be consistent with how we've handled similar site evaluations, these sites met our minimum clearances. And so staff do not believe there's any conflicts with the proposed or planted sites. And we do appreciate that property owners or their representatives have been in touch with us. We've received a lot of feedback, either via email, phone calls, or service requests from all three of today's property owners or representatives. So we respect the amount of time they've already put into it and wanted to return that respect by just bringing as much information to this process as possible being as transparent as possible about how we select sites. And also just remind everyone about equity and that it's very challenging if the city in enacting policies is not consistent. And the responsibility of managers is to be consistent and apply these rules consistently so that owners don't feel like there's people who have trees here, they don't have trees. It's a public right of way, and we need to make room for necessary infrastructure. So street trees are critical infrastructure, and that's what we're trying to do here. So that concludes the staff presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. I just wanted to make a quick clarification on the process. So at the beginning, I mentioned that we would have members or appellants speak first and then conclude with rebuttal, but we're only going to do rebuttal from appellants if there's a dialogue with the department following your first testimony that warrants additional commentary. So we're going to do just the 3-minute for each appellant. So let's just start with 125 Cole is the appellant for that property present.
If you are the appellant and you are calling in on a phone, you can raise your hand by, is it *6, Mr. Reutman, or is it *9? One of them unmutes and one of them raises the hand.
So to raise hand, you'll press *9.
Okay. So if you are calling in on the phone, please press *9 to raise your hand, and then I can unmute you. I don't see any hands for the appellant.
Okay, thank you. Is the appellant for 24 Rolfe Street present?
There's a hand here. Okay, we have 3 hands. Go ahead.
Can you hear us now? Hello?
Yes.
Yes.
This is 125.
Okay, you have an echo. If you have 2 devices, can you please disconnect the audio on one of the devices?
Yes.
There's still feedback.
Hello?
I think
Yeah.
you need to figure
I'm
out if the
Oh.
microphone that you're using to speak has a speaker somewhere else that's playing the hearing. So you need
hold
to
on.
either mute
Okay.
the speaker or only use one microphone that's interconnected with the speaker. Unfortunately, now we can't hear what you're saying, so I think you might try muting when we're talking and then unmute when you're talking.
I see 2 other hands, but I don't know if one of those hands was that person or not. I'm gonna let's see.
Try another person and see if we can make it work.
Okay, hello? Can you unmute yourself, please, caller? Hello?
You might have to press *6.
Can you hear us now?
Okay.
Turn off the computer. Turn off the computer. Can you hear us now? No, you have to turn off the computer.
Well, they'll have to hear us with the echo. I mean, it's not impossible.
Just leave the meeting, leave the meeting.
What if I take this over here?
All right, go ahead.
Can you hear us now?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Hi, this is Bobby Zanansky, and I would like to say, just for setting the speed, when we got notification about the tree, I wrote Chris Buck 3 times and told him exactly why we did not want a tree put in. Never got any sort of response from him. Then we contacted Sarah Stacy, who seemed just fine about not planting the tree, and that went down. So I threw in a proposal of why we did not want the tree, and I just want to iterate a couple of things. We've lived in this house 50 years, and we know, since we signed up for one of the early trees, we know exactly like the tree. And the problems that we had, we are in a heavily foot trafficked neighborhood. We've got several things on either side of our blocks, so we have a lot of traffic. There are a lot of people who eat stuff, throw wrappings into the tree. We have dogs that come and poop and pee on the trees, and all of that needs to get cleaned up. This is not anything that the urban forest is going to do. Now, we know that you have every intent to take care of the tree, but it's not really feasible to believe that you're going to be able to do everything at one time. Ergo, the tree was planted 3 weeks ago and it needed to be watered. I didn't water it because you were supposed to come and water it, and I didn't want to overwater it. So the bottom of the tree, the leaves have turned brown, and the dogs have come, and there are several leaves of the tree that have turned yellow. Now, it's just both of us are 79. And he cannot get up and down the way we used to do. So trying to get down every day to clean the tree out is really not feasible. And it just is very difficult to do anything. We had a bunch of problems with the last tree, which we have written to you about. Hopefully this is indeed a shallow root tree, but we never got any information about that, only that it didn't require much water. And at 50 years living,
30 seconds.
we don't want to have everything look terrible. So we would respectfully ask you to replant the tree someplace else. There are several other spots on the street where the tree could be planted. Please, would you not make this a physical and a monetary kind of investment for us? We've had a tree, we've had to replace sidewalks where the tree came up. The government is fine, but it takes a lot of time when you call somebody to get something done. I thank you, and would hope that you really would give some thought to the fact that even, at the end of 3 years, when you're no longer going to take care of the tree, my husband and I will be 82. Truly do not need to have the maintenance and the having a tree that attracts all this other stuff.
Thank you.
Can you mention which property address you're at?
125 Cole,
Thank you.
the one that has a tree, even though we asked that it not be planted.
And just a question for Chris. Are there any other locations in the vicinity of that block that are suitable as well?
I can check on that. I do see there have been a lot of recent plantings in general, but that's not kind of the subject of what we're doing here, because the next property owner may not, you know, want a tree in front of their property. So that's not part of our decision-making process. The idea is that when there's an open space, once everyone has trees, no one will feel targeted with why people who have a tree don't have a tree. So we're not removing a tree where we're required to find a replacement at the closest place nearby, but I don't know. It's totally fair feedback. And I think that, you know, certainly it can just be part of the decision-making process, but I'm not aware of that as an argument for anything. That doesn't clear up the city. It would further create problems on the block with, I mean, maybe that other neighbor would support it, but maybe not. So that's not how we go about finding viable locations.
Thank you. Is there anyone else giving testimony on this address 125 Cole Street?
Please unmute yourself, caller.
Hello?
Yes, can you speak up a little louder? We can hear you.
Oh, okay, yes. Is this for which address? Do you want me to state?
125 Cole Street.
Oh, okay, I will say that, whatever, what the lady said is correct. Everything she stated is exactly. The city do not come to fix the problem. They say they claim it, but if they do, they go to a beautiful places for a better neighborhood, not in our neighborhood. They go to a different neighborhood to clean the trees, maybe at the city hall, but not in our areas. They forget about our areas because we are low income, or either they discriminate us, but that's how they do it. And it's sad. So a tree have to make sure where they're going to plant it. That's all I can say.
Can you provide your name?
Edith.
Thank you. And you're calling about 125 Cole Street, is that correct?
I'm calling, well, I heard that if anyone has anything to say for 125 Cole, so that's why I came and say my side of this, of how we see it, the way the other ladies see it at 125 Cole.
Understood. I'm just trying to
And
give
Mr. Roitman,
opportunity for the
I want to
folks that
ask, weren't they asking for all three of the locations though at one time? Because he read them all together.
Yeah, so I think the idea was that all three were read together, and then we'd go down the line between the three addresses to allow the property owners at each location to have an opportunity, and then general comments. But I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Edith, but your comment applies generally to all of the addresses.
Well, yes, I'm giving a statement of also to support 125. It could be 24, 400. It's just supporting what she has said, the lady.
Understood. All right, is there anyone else present to provide testimony to 125 Cole Street?
There are no other hands.
Okay.
Oh.
How about 24 Rolfe Street?
The first person raised their hand again. Should I unmute them?
Let's try it.
125 Cole Street.
Yes.
Hi, I'd just like to, if I could have 30 seconds about 125 Cole Street. Over.
Correct.
We had a tree planted here 50 years ago by the Friends of the Urban Forest. They stated, and we asked them if the tree would get in the sewer line and buckle the sidewalk and get into the lines above the power lines. They said no. As the tree grew, it did get into the power lines, requiring us to get an arborist to clip them down. The sidewalk was buckled. The sewer line was embarrassed and had to be cleaned out, and we ended up spending approximately $850 to repair the sidewalk, which the city required us to do. Subsequently, the tree died, and we again had to pay to have it removed and the sidewalk repaired. And the tree that has been planted in front of our house currently is in the same location with the same caveats that the tree will not harm the sidewalk or the power lines or the sewer lines. So we are, of course, extremely skeptical. Over.
Yeah, I heard you.
And if you look at the site that you photographed, you look up north toward the university and there is a tree, and right on the street side of the tree, there is a buckled sidewalk where the roots have, and the city comes around and tags those buckled sidewalks, cracked sidewalks, and requires the owner to repair them. Arborists come and say, if we cut the roots of the tree will die, and the city doesn't like that either. So we're kind of in a quandary. What's your suggestion?
Chris, do you have any comments about the, I guess, the responsibility for the maintenance?
Sure, thank you. So Chris Buck with Public Works, Bureau of Urban Forestry. So with the passage of Prop E, the city is now responsible for repairing sidewalk-related damage that's caused by tree roots. So that burden has been, property owners have been relieved of that responsibility. So that's the case up the street. That property owner will not need to make those repairs. And then I do want to be clear that I did not promise, there was no promise from the city that street trees are going to be free of maintenance. It's just that we have money now to actually do that maintenance. The only responsibility that we generally don't accept is sewer line issues, tree roots and sewer lines, because typically it requires a sewer line to be leaking or cracked for tree roots to enter or cause damage. But otherwise, repairing the sidewalk, pruning trees, removing them in the future will be the responsibility of the city. So I do want to just clarify those points. Good points to bring up.
And sorry for the gentleman that spoke before, can you state your name?
My name is Larry. Over.
Thank you. Over.
Yeah.
Okay, is there anyone else giving testimony to 125 Cole Street? Okay. Just checking with Cerise if there's any further attempts to connect.
No, no other hands and nothing in the chat.
Okay, then let's try 24 Rolfe Street, if there's any property owner or appellant on that case right now.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes,
Can you? Okay. Yes, for 24 Ross Street.
yes.
I would like to say that, don't get me wrong, I love trees. But my concern in how they went and think that there is an area to put a tree, I think they miscalculated. First of all, there is a gas utility very near to that area. You know, trees are nature, and they will go, the roots will go in the direction they want because that's nature. You cannot stop nature. They will destroy and they're going to cause damage in the future. And the only problem who's going to end up is going to be the person near 20 Roth and 24th Roth between there. There are other utilities like wires on the top. They're very near. If I put a regular ladder, if I put it there, I can touch the wires easily. It's very near to them. Also, I would like to say that in regards to the parking, that's a one-way street. It's very narrow. The street, there is a parking space there. If they put a plant there, a tree there, whoever's going to park there, they will not be able to open the door enough. Like for example, an elderly person who have a knee problem or something, how to get out, they cannot open the door enough. And if they put the tree closer to the house, then that means that the people who walk, that's a very traffic place. That when they walk, when I'm gonna come out reverse from my car, from my garage, people tend to avoid the tree and get closer to my area, and more likely I will hit someone. People don't look around. The people who are walking, I'm watching, but the people who walk, they don't care. They just throw themselves finding a way to walk. Also, that's between 20 Roth and 24 Roth. There is a red lines, so people cannot park beyond that red line, because otherwise we will not be able to come out from our garage. For an emergency, we cannot come out. So people will try to avoid that tree, and they're going to take over the red line more in order to come out, and then we'll get stuck with the problem. We're going to create chaos. You're going to put us in danger by us constantly telling to people not to park more than the red light. Also, the FCC, the Federal Communication Commission, it says that the more tree around, there will be no television signal. We are low income around those areas. The
30
more
seconds remaining.
The more trees you put, we're not going to be able to watch TV. We need to pay this huge company corporation $70 in order to watch TV. We are elderly and we don't have money to pay. Also, I would like to say that the trees. Let's see. The trees also cause us lighting. There's very low lighting. It's a one-way street, very low lighting. We had crimes before there. We have crime because there is a lot of cannabis stores that I don't know, the city allowed to put. So we have very low lighting. There are, don't get me wrong, there are more trees there. There are already 4 trees on that street. Between Curtis and Mission and Roth, there is 4 trees. The more trees you put, the less lighting we have. We are in danger because we have crime there. We need to be able to see. Even each other, we take care of us, our neighbors. So please take into consideration. It's not that we don't want to. Also, can you please tell the urban friends of the urban city and also the urban forest to let us know in advance that when they're going to plant the tree, they don't give us the opportunity. If you don't give an opportunity, then this is not democracy. It looks like it is a like dictatorship. And like I said, I don't know where they get that money. I don't know how much money they're using, but they don't come and fix the trees. I don't know where that money goes. So I don't want to blame no one, but we just want to be safe in my area. There will be, it's not a good idea for the tree because of the reasons that I have given. So please, can you take into consideration that all that, that the problem, not only to mention the other trees, I have picture, but because of me not knowing how to do this technology, there is a lot of poop, flies all over the place. Because in a neighborhood, it's not that people that walk their dog, they're gonna be people that will pick up. They don't pick up. Sorry to tell you that it is sad. And also a lot of garbage. I have to clean the leaves from the other trees that are near Mission, that they come all the way to 20 and 24th Rolfe. I have to clean it. And because people that public works, people that they put to clean, they don't clean. You know what they do? I have seen them. They go, they put people to clean and they stay inside their car for all day. They don't clean. They claim to you that they clean, but they don't clean. They stay inside the car. So someone probably will have to look into these people that are cleaning. Why do you think we have a lot of garbage in our area? Because somehow on Mission or whoever you put cleaning, they don't clean. So all the garbage will fly in because it's a one-way street and very narrow, so the wind will blow everything in there. So this is, if I would have known, if I know that Friends of the Urban Forest, Public Works, and other people who are involved in this project are truthful and they do things accordingly what they say, we don't mind because they're going to come and clean, but they're not doing it. I cannot blame one person. It will be unfair. It will be unfair if I blame one person. But we are stuck with the problem. And also, I have one person that told me that they called the public because they have ruined the sewer. And they say that, no, it was their fault. And by the time they have to prove it that it was because of the tree, it was already a huge mess. It's not easy. What they claim that is easy when it comes to damaging the areas. So please take into consideration, once I come out from my driveway, I don't want to hit no pedestrians. People who park in that area will not be able to open the doors in there. And also there is a gas line nearby that for sure the tree will do their own thing.
You are muted, Mr. Reutman.
Sorry, thank you. I appreciate your testimony and detailed information. We will take that under advisement. Do you mind stating your name for our records? Sorry, I think she's muted. I should have asked at the beginning.
Edith.
Edith, okay. You spoke earlier about the other property, right?
Yes, in regards of the maintaining and everything that she said.
Okay, thank you. Let's see, is there anyone else here specifically on 24 Rolfe Street? Okay, maybe we can see if there's an appellant for 400 Somerset present.
No other hands at this time.
Okay. I think the chat had one question to Buff. Maybe you can respond to that in this hearing. They asked, is there only one tree on each block?
Yeah, we generally try not to encourage the chat function because we don't monitor it typically during our hearings. But I don't really understand the one tree on the block comment. It seems like maybe the feedback is about if we're to move a tree away from 125 Cole Street, is it just that there's one tree gets planted? The idea is that eventually citywide, the goal of the city is to plant all available planting sites in the next 20 years. So the goal is to plant all available planting sites citywide. So that would be the technical response. But yeah, thanks for
I
that
think the question
clarification.
may have been raised when you were giving the overview of equitable distribution of trees through the city and in new plantings. So I think your answer addresses that comment.
That's right, for sure. These happen to be individual sites that we're talking about, but there's far greater trees that are being planted citywide.
Thank you. Is there anyone else from the public that hasn't spoken yet that was wanting to give testimony on any of the case that we heard today? Okay. If there's no one else, then
There was somebody who wrote in and I asked them to unmute themselves.
okay.
I'm waiting for them to respond.
And they would first press *9 if they're on a phone, is that right?
I think they're on a computer.
Okay.
This one.
One person that
It
says
just
D.
says D, and I asked them to unmute, but no response yet. Okay. Caller 1 has a response again. Go ahead.
Yes, I'm here. 424 Roth. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes.
yes. Go ahead.
Okay, 424 Roth. I like I say, I don't know much of the computer. I was going to say that on between Curtis and Mission Street on Roth Street, it's not that there's no trees. There are 4 trees already. The more trees, like I mentioned, there will be the telebroadcasting for antenna is going to disturb. That's what the FCC says. The better communication for an antenna is the less trees, the better. And it's not there's no trees. There are 4 trees already. The more trees we're going to put, I don't know if this is a conspiracy in regards to this
Okay.
corporation.
Sorry, I'm gonna have to cut you off because we already heard this commentary. And we've taken it
Okay.
under advisement. We got the testimony, so I appreciate your comments. If there's no one else giving comment, then we're gonna end this hearing now. So Cerise, is there anyone else that hasn't spoken yet that has raised
No.
their hand? Okay.
No, there are no other hands.
All right. Thank you, everyone, and appreciate all your testimony. With no more public comments, I will close this hearing. The hearing is now closed.